Live tonight from the virtual Sonoma Raceway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 3 of the Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational presented by Yokohama. The American swing of this iRX series heads even further west to the Golden State of California, and that's where we welcome you into the iRacing Esports Network booth. We're alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, joined once more by Jonathan Saban, as always, as we get set for the American Red Cross iRX California Classic. And sticking with that theme of these converted racetrack layouts, Johnny, instead we head from an oval in Daytona last week out to Sonoma and to a road course, a track that plays host to NASCAR, IndyCar competition, and a whole lot in between. But tonight's race is going to be certainly a ton of fun and a very unique layout on the calendar.
Very easy to overtake at Sonoma in Rallycross. Welcome, everybody. If you're watching iRacing Rallycross for the first time, this is a fantasy layout on the service. It's one of two that we're running on the schedule for the All-Star Invitational. The second one will be the Atlanta layout that will host round 5 of our championship in a couple of weeks' time. It's promoted great racing in the past, has Sonoma. And Evan, I'm not from California, but during the winter months here, what looks like sand and gravel at the outside of the racetrack is actually quite green grass.
Yeah, it does. It does have a much more lively look in the spring. And, of course, this scan of iRacing matching more so what you'll see with NASCAR competition and whatnot comes here through the summer months. And in a direct comparison, to mention Speedway out in California, well, last week we were on the East Coast down in Florida at Daytona International Speedway, where we saw Mitchell DeYoung take home a second straight win, and he continued his domination. He took home the Yokohama pole position award with a 33.296, so that gives him a second Bear Walker custom and handcrafted skateboard. That's about a value of $500. He was tweeting a picture of his prize from hell at round 1 earlier today on the social medias, and was able to win the heat race outright, win the feature there as well. So DeYoung's going to be very strong. We knew that, Johnny, but he's 2 for 2 so far.
And great to have Yokohama presenting the series as always. And for DeYoung, who knows if he'll make it 3 out of 3. We haven't begun qualifying yet, but so far he seems to just be not deliberately, but just trying to sandbag his times. He doesn't want to show his best card for the moment, but we know that he's more than capable at this circuit. Now, it hasn't been his best circuit in the Sim Racing World Championship, Evan, which he did win the championship of back in 2018, but he's had a lot of poor luck around here. And with this circuit promoting a lot of great racing, incidents are always occurring as well. There's a lot of driver contact. There's a lot of action to take place. And the best news is that for the first time ever in iRacing, we're going to be able to take the Joker here on the first lap.
And we saw that last week as well in Daytona, and that is a custom rule set administered for this Subaru iRX All-Star Invitational presented by Yokohama. And we mentioned how this is a fantasy track. Well, Sonoma's a real one, and it is super interesting because it makes a mix of about 3 different circuits. As they'll come over the jump you see right here. This is one of the road circuits, but there actually brings them down and onto the drag strip. That's what that main front stretch is. And then we actually go the wrong way around the inner loop, which is normally nice and cleaned off for drivers to race in an IndyCar layout, not what the NASCAR Cup layout has been for the last few years. But we're actually, instead of diving down into it, coming up and out of it, and that has been turned into a giant dirt section before we rejoin what is going to be down turn 7 for the NASCAR Cup layout. I think that the folks over at iRace and Johnny, to get some of these extra iRX maps on to the service, had a really fun time creating this fantasy layout. And to my understanding, this specific track, one of the fan favorites in the iRX community.
Whoever designed this track deserves a raise for literally a 20% raise for the rest of their time at iRacing each year. But this is just absolutely phenomenal as we ride on board with one of the drivers coming up through the inner loop, or the carousel as it's known. This is Connor Martell, who's currently setting his final practice laps before we head to qualifying. The tough part about this circuit is we used to have bollards where you see those anti-cut strips are, and they used to hurt a lot of drivers. Mitchell de Jong, back in the Sim Racing World Championship, had some trouble maneuvering his way around that carousel portion. There's the Joker to the right-hand side. They're going to take to the jump, which is the normal part of the lap, and Martel's absolutely almost butchered that as he goes into the wall. But Evan, you talk about all the multitude of layouts we have here. The thing I'm most looking forward to is our all-star cast of talent. We have drivers from Travis Pastrana Racing, 4-time US Rallycross champion in Scott Speed, Andreas Backerud as well, and let's not forget Kevin Hansen.
There's a ton of drivers. Let's talk what the points are coming into this evening, and you'll get those names. Of course, Mitchell de Jong, perfect so far through 2 rounds. So his 96 points have him at the top of the championship. But Scott Speed, you noted, 32 points back in the number 2 position. Christian Brooks, Connor Martell, and Andreas Backerud, the top 5 in the championship. But more drivers, the likes of Kligerman, McCoy, Hansen, Swindell, Hinchcliffe. I mean, it is not just the pros for rallycross on the sim and in the real world, but NASCAR drivers, IndyCar drivers, and a whole host of things in between is what makes this All-Star Invitational so much fun.
Yeah, definitely. Great to have drivers from IndyCar here, and James Hinchcliffe, and as you said, he's been enjoying this for sure. Scott Speed's also had some experience in open wheelers back when he raced in Formula 1 in 07. Alexander Rossi out there, James Hinchcliffe's teammate. Here is Travis Pastrana. We know there's a lot of people watching from the Nitro Circus social channels and YouTube page, and it's great to have you all on board. And Pastrana's looked good in this series. And a new race format, Evan, today means that the incentive from qualifying will be to go for that Bear Walker limited edition custom skateboard. But apart from that, we're going to invert the grids for the heats, not for the consolation races. And then we're going to invert the final feature race grid. And the drivers in our practice races absolutely loved it. But for Parker Kligerman, who we're watching on screen, it'll be ever difficult to win that feature. But I'm sure they'll all have a little bit of fun.
And that's the biggest point of note, I think, coming into this, because we had seen the likes of de Jong be able to go out, get the Yokohama pole position award, win his heat race, win the feature. And listen, we all knew that the 2018 iRacing Rallycross World Champion was going to be very, very hard to beat. But yes, it is not as easy as saying, well, if there's nothing to fight for in qualifying and we're going to flip the grid, why even bother? Because there is still that $500 custom skateboard on the line. That's really the only tangible thing that these drivers can walk away away with, because again, the whole purpose of this championship is for charity. $10,000 going to be given out to the charity of choice amongst our top 3 points finishers. 5,000 to our champion, 3,000 to second, 2,000 for third. They'll get to dictate which charity benefits from that money. As the qualifying session now begins, 3 laps, best one will set the qualified order, but again, inverted for the heat races. So the fastest cars could be at the very back for either heat race 3 or 4. But as you mentioned as well, we're not going to invert for the LCQs. So if you just miss out on a transfer in the heat, you will start up front for the LCQs. But very opposite of what we've been seeing, the last driver in from LCQ number 2 would be the driver starting up front for the main event. So it's going to give a much bigger challenge to the De Youngs and the Speeds and the Backaroods of the world, because right now I'm sure they want to go out there and get that $500 skateboard, but also they want to make sure they get to the feature race so they walk away with some points.
And if you sandbag or tank too obviously, then you will have your lap time deleted. We thought De Jong was doing that, but he screamed away here off camber. This is a private qualifying session, so each driver you'll see will just vanish and pop up on board, and you might be wondering why that's the case. It's because they're all qualifying in their own little world and little server at the moment, as Mitchell De Jong now will begin his first of 3 laps around Sonoma. Expect the quickest times to be around the 38-second range at this circuit. De Jong's flying through to the right way around here, around the NASCAR layout. And what will happen throughout the day is, just like the real world, that gravel will dissipate. The track will turn into basically a surface that's almost tarmac, and it will become faster as the session progresses. Here's De Jong for his first lap times. It'll be in the 40-second range, but they'll be quicker through the more laps they take.
That's actually the best lap that De Jong's put down all night long with a 44.76. Now looking at Chris Atkinson as he comes down. They're going to be doing about 120 miles an hour through that finish line as it comes after the Joker and after the big downhill. And you can see that Atkinson going to slide in line down in the running order. But the man you're looking at right now, Christian Brooks, was second best in practice only to Connor Martell. It was the 2018 America's Rallycross iRX 2 champion who was the best car in practice, and he is currently hovering right there near the top of the board. But we've got some real fast lap times in. As you can see, it was Trogan who jumped to the very top.
Trogan, who was our 2019 sim racing champion, and he's also raced in iRX2 in the FIA World Rallycross Championship. He's got a few of his competitors alongside him, of Kevin Hansen, who finished 3rd in the Supercross Championship. That was a different division to Sammy Matty Trogan. But here is the Finn, who was so desperate towards winning that championship. Evan, this is how competitive he is. That's close to deleting his lap time, by the way, hitting that. But what happened is they brought and built a simulator for him in South Africa last year when he was racing in the FIA Championship, just so he could also compete in the sim racing one too.
And he's not going to get all the way to the end of that lap time. One interesting thing I noticed, Johnny, and I'll ask you about this. We talked about the difference between, of course, the normal layout here, which is going across the jump, and then the Joker lane is that inside paved part. I noticed Trogan there coming to start his 3rd lap. He actually took the Joker, which obviously disallowed the active lap. You can't have a Joker time as your lap. Is that any sort of strategy to be on that pavement to have more speed into the first quarter for your 3rd lap, or am I overthinking that?
No, all the quick guys will be doing the same. So yes, you have 3 laps maximum, but they'll sacrifice one of those laps to get a better run to begin, which gains you at least a few tenths, as we watch Greg Duffy here come towards the end of one of his runs. And he sets a 44-second lap time. That'll put him down the order, though, for Duffy. I don't think that's a competitive time. And yes, you will start from the last position. But De Jong's also done that in the background, Evan. He's improved by just a touch here. He's improved to 2nd position. And like we said, Mitchell has spoken about Sonoma not being one of his best layouts. So let's see how he fares come these next few events.
And just looking through, unless there is a handful of drivers still yet to go, qualifying, by the way, with the invert is mandatory. So all the drivers now have posted a time from the 42.89 at Trogan at the very top down to the 44.9 by Greg Duffy, who is piloting for this week the Nitro Circus Star car. And It looks like qualifying may wrap up, but if that's to be the case now, as the clock winds down, we are going to have a first-time winner of the Yokohama Pole Position Award because Sammy Matty Trogan's done it. The Williams Esports driver, doubled up as a Finnish rallycross driver, is the best in qualifying, and he gets himself that $500 custom skateboard to get all of those carved out with for Bear Walker, who does them. You could, of course, take a look at his work at bearwalker.com, or you can follow him at Bear Walker Official on Instagram, and I'm sure get a look at the prize that these drivers are racing for. But that's now down to the bottom of qualifying. Take that mental image of what we just showed everybody, Johnny, put it upside down, because that's how we're gonna figure out these heat races. So with the best cars starting at the back, combined with, as you said, a very fun circuit that lends itself to a lot of overtakes, I think this could be the funnest round of the World Championship little mini series we've had yet. But let's take a look at our starting grid there for heat race number 1, and it is Justin Lofton who will bring us to the green flag on this one, alongside the Napa number 28 car of Ron Capps. They'll be both joined by Chris Atkinson, the 55, going to be on the outside of that 3-wide front row.
Chris Atkinson, very strong, the Australian. He'll start ahead of Craig Breen and Kevin Hansen. Craig Breen made the feature race for the last round at Daytona. Kevin Hansen, of course, third in the FIA World Rallycross Championship last year. Celebrated his brother winning the championship in style with a thrilling finale over there in the championship. Christian Brooks on the podium in the feature race last week. He'll be hoping to do the same, the Road to Indy driver. And Sammy Matty Trogan will start from last, our pole sitter. The only issue for Sammy Matty Trogan, Evan, is that we hope the skateboard can be mailed to him in at least the next couple of weeks, because we know how long it could take under quarantine laws. But anyway, he won't be focusing too much on that. He'll be staring right at the lights for heat number 1.
He hopes to get a couple of them so they can just send them in bulk by the time this 6-round championship is done. But we're off and away for heat race number 1, and it is not a good start for Lofton. Oh, and Capps is going to get tagged. The NHRA champion up and over. Lofton involved, and so is Trogan. So big problems on the start for some of the fastest.
And that's always going to happen here at Sonoma, the track bottlenecks. It's a very difficult first corner. Now, remember, you can take the Joker here on the first lap. Kevin Hansen's opted for it. A couple other drivers have as well, but that's really spread the field out. So far, Hansen leads ahead of Atkinson, who's battling away with Craig Breen. Those two make a bit of contact through the middle sector, and that's going to demote Breen to third.
So through all of this chaos, we thought Lofton was going to be in the best position, but watch the battle now as Brooks gets around Breen. So he's able to complete that pass. And even further down, there goes the Joker lap on the inside for Atkinson. So he'll get that out of the way as he looks to complete lap number 1. And of course, that puts him ahead of Brooks. So you can see on the left-hand side, it'll tell you Joker laps remaining. So the top 2 cars on track have already taken care of it. And for the lead in this one is Kevin Hansen's slow.
Yeah, so he must have had a slowdown potentially for Kevin Hansen. That was difficult to see, but he's already taken his Joker, so this is going to cost him grid position. Only your top 2 head to the feature race, so look out for those top 2 spots as we ride on board here with Kevin Hansen.
Yeah, just trying to figure out whatever the issue was, but now Hansen going to go a long way around. There's the Joker for Christian Brooks, and as we go on board over the ramp there, you'll see now Brooks ends up even further down the road as the struggles continue for Kevin Hansen. He also got passed by Chris Atkinson, who was able to get up and around. So it has been a rough and tough couple of laps through all of this. Christian Brooks now out in front, enjoying quite a lead. Atkinson in second. Again, only the top 2 drivers advance out of this 6-lap heat race based on the finishing order, no invert. Third position on the back would get sent to a winner-take-all LCQ.
Now, did you see what happened at this portion of the racetrack last lap round for Kevin Hansen? He opted to go for the long way around, and Christian Brooks had to brake for the Joker. Now, that's the difficulty at this circuit, is just monitoring that gap to the driver in front, being aware if you are the driver in front, not to slam the brakes and brake check the driver behind. It's such a difficult Joker at this fantasy layout on iRacing. But for Kevin Hansen, with 3 laps to go. He'll have an opportunity here to make a move on Chris Atkinson. This is the best circuit to overtake at in Rallycross on iRacing. And have a look at Hansen here. He's creeped in at least a couple of seconds this lap. He's going to throw it down the inside into the final corner. Bit of extracurricular activity, and he makes it through into the second position.
A little bit of a bump, but he was able to make the pass, and therefore now back into P2 goes Kevin Hansen. But this section of the racetracks where he lost all that time the last time through, have to think it was some sort of a penalty that he was serving, because now the 55 car is going to come back right around. I think he cut it too close again. And you cannot go off the surface there, down and into the grass. And I think he got hit with a second time penalty. This time it costs him 2 spots. We have a 3-way battle for the P2 transfer. And how about the 1 car as Sammy Matty Trogan? He's been quiet after the incident on the opening lap. He goes for his Joker now, and this should put him now into second.
The Joker delta time here is 2 seconds, so I think that's it. As Sammy Matty Trogan will head into the second position. Kevin Hansen's got no chance as he will make the move behind the scenes here on Chris Atkinson. They're actually alongside each other as Atkinson now. We've seen some S to S snake driving there in the past, and it happens again. But these two will be battling for an inverted grid position. But Evan, for Sammy Matty Trogan to recover after an abysmal first lap where he was taken out here at the first corner is a great way to end his heat.
And up front, it is going to be the U.S. Rallycross Lights driver and Christian Brooks, checkered flag, and he wins heat race number 1. And Sammy Matty Trogan, with that valiant comeback, comes through in second. And Brooks's reward for going 6th first in the heat race, an impressive run, will net him the very last spot on the grid for the feature race a little bit later on. Still drivers wrapping up their laps. Chris Atkinson 3rd, Kevin Hansen 4th, Craig Breen 5th position. Ron Capps just now completing his lap from the number 6 position. And you were looking at Justin Lofton, who I thought was set to have a really good race in this one, but had those issues right off the get-go. He just now completes his lap. So the 2-time Stadium Super Trucks race winner, 3-time Mint 400 overall 4-wheel winner is going to be at the very back. Top 2 moving on. The rest, you get to see them in the LCQ.
And Sammy Matty will actually, ironically, have great grid position for that feature race. So if anything, not winning that heat is probably a good thing for him as we head to the second heat of the day. Now, all these heats will be 6 laps of action. There'll be a Joker available to all drivers, and yet again 2 drivers from each heat will advance to that feature. And Evan, we've got an all-star cast yet again as Greg Duffy will lead the field away from pole position.
And you mentioned the great cast that is the Nitro Circus Star Car this week. You got Garrett Smithley going to be in the middle of the front row starting second. And then it is the Supercross champion Chad Reed to the outside in the number 22. We look back to row 2. It is Indianapolis 500 champion Alexander Rossi. He'll line alongside the number 180 of Brandon Semenuk to the outside there as well. Cabot Bigum actually going to be on row number 3. He'll be joined alongside with the 2-time race winner already in this Subaru iRX All-Star Invitational in Mitchell DeYoung. So 3 on the front row and then 2 on each row, therefore behind. And that inside did not have as much of a benefit as maybe we expected. Let's see as we head down to turn 1, looking for the green lights on heat race number 2.
Here we go, engines rev. I thought I saw Chad Reed potentially jump the start. What a screaming getaway from Rossi. Greg Duffy went nowhere across the line as the field bottlenecks into the first corner. Bit of contact behind as Cabot Bigum may have collected Duffy, who started this race from first, and he's down to last.
He's going to go all the way to the back. 2 Jokers, though, as Cabot Bigum goes to the point, and I think that other driver who took the Joker is going to talk a lot about 3rd or 4th, but through all of that, again, the top spot in the heat race not beneficial. Some drivers going way wide in this inner loop. As again, right now, they are going uphill, and we learned in heat race 1 that, yeah, because they covered up all of the pavement and the asphalt with dirt here to make it a dirt section, there are still track limits. You cannot go off and into the grass. So a tightly contested field now. Going to come back out. Oh, and there's contact. It's Chad Reed. Reed's going to get turned by Semenuk, and he's going to go all the way around behind.
Oh, and I think I saw off camera, Cabot Bigham's missed the jump. Now, will he receive a penalty for that? He had a bit of contact as he got argy-bargy, I believe, with Alexander Rossi in that Andretti Rallycross car. How about Garrett Smithley, who will receive a slowdown penalty here from P1 up ahead of screen? We see argy-bargy behind.
Bigham slowdown, so I think he did get a penalty.
Exactly. Now, one thing we have to stress, we had so much to discuss coming into this round, Evan, is that it is so easy to pick up a slowdown penalty here. Now there's contact down the back of the pack, as that's Mitchell de Jong turned around in the Beetle.
So issues for the two-time winner as his VRS VW went around. There's also been an administrative penalty issued to Bigham, I believe, for initiating that contact with Alexander Rossi. So not only did he have to serve the automatic slowdown, but the court administrative team, who was keeping an eye on all of this and keeping these drivers in line, did not like him getting into race leader Alexander Rossi. So he was given a 25-second penalty. Or 2-second penalty, I guess I should say, that'll be added on to what his finishing time will be. That could dictate a spot or two in the LCQ, because it looks like he's not going to be able to crack these cars up front, because all the top four have already completed their joker. Rossi leads as we get halfway home this time by 3 laps down, but it'll be Semenuk trying to hold off Cabot Bigham. The last time by was faster than him by an entire second.
And look out for Mitchell de Jong, because as you saw on the right-hand side of the screen, he still has 1 joker lap available, and he's quicker than a lot of these guys by a couple of seconds per lap. And here's the driver from California rising through the inner loop, or the carousel as it's known to, and heading back on to the road course layout here and onto the tarmac. As the grip changes, he doesn't even have to pass Garrett Smithley. He sails past, and he's not going to use the joker this lap by, which I think is a good strategy. He might, and he may have to, take it his next trip around.
And right now, his disadvantage to the race leader is sitting at what is going to be 3.3 seconds, so he really needs that joker. Meanwhile, we have a 3-way battle for the race lead in this heat race, because Alexander Rossi, there you see him, has been caught by both Semenuk behind and Bigham. There goes Bigham down to the outside, trying to make a pass for second, can't get the spot, and all the pressure in this battle is on Semenuk right now. The 5-time Canadian Rally Championship race winner is trying to decide, does he go for the win, or is he going to have to hold off the 2 for the final transfer spot last lap from Sonoma?
And look at de Jong in the background. So like I said, he's in P4, and the more these drivers squabble
2.2, he closed a lot of time. It's going to be close.
Exactly, spot on, Evan. So the battle for second goes on here as Cabot Bigham passes Brandon Semenuk from Whistler, Canada. And there's a lap car in the way too. Is that Greg Duffy here, who's completely off the racetrack? He's actually, I'm watching off camera, he's tumbled and turned
Rossi
on his
got tagged.
Contact as Rossi turned around.
It was Semenuk who got into him. He is completely gone now. Here's de Jong, who still needs his joker. He's going to shortcut both of those drivers, and Mitchell de Jong going to steal the win in heat race number 2, and it is Cabot Bigham behind through the chaos, who was able to stay ahead of Semenuk after making that late pass, and he will finish in second and take that additional transfer spot to the main event.
Brilliant strategy by de Jong. Cabot Bigham will join him. Those two competed in GRC Lights a few years ago, and the rest of the field will trundle home as we watch the stricken beetle of Garrett Smithley and Greg Duffy come home to end the heat. Now we head into heat 3. If you're looking for Travis Pastrana, he is not in heat number 3. He'll be racing in the final heat for the day for number 4.
And those are your finishing results there for heat race number 2. So Rossi down through Duffy. We will see them in the LCQ. Let's take a look, though, at your starting grid for heat race number 3.
And it's Travis Okulski starting from pole position. He'll be ahead of Tyler Meninga. Parker Kligerman will start on the outside of this front row. He ended up with a podium last round at Daytona, and he enjoyed that quite a bit, didn't he? As Travis McCoy will round the second row alongside Andretti Rallycross driver James Hinchcliffe. And I can't even count how many championships Scott Speed has won in Rallycross, but he's here racing today after qualifying quite well. Don't forget, these grids are inverted for this round from qualifying, and that will mean Scott Speed will be in the worst position at the start. But so far, we've seen all our drivers from the back row make it through to the feature.
And now we wait for the lights to go on. You can actually see them top of your screen. You'll see the red come first, followed by the green. We have seen a lot of these drivers get a little bit antsy on these starts and jump them. That would be associated with a time penalty should one of these drivers try to go early on. But that 3-wide front row has kind of been the calamity point. We have not made it through turn 1 incident-free so far this afternoon.
Wow.
Do we change that in Heat Race 3? Or does the excitement continue?
Well, Evan, the fact that the grid looks like a 6-pin bowling alley right now doesn't give you any optimism for this start, does it? As they as they bowl themselves down into turn 1.
Just waiting now on them to advance and for us to get going as it looks like all the drivers indeed on the grid. And of course, it's going to be for the very back for Scott Speed. It actually seems like so far this afternoon that saving that Joker has been the better call. Most races we've seen drivers want to get out of the way very early on. So we look for the lights at the top of the screen. You see the red, and now the drivers wait for the green light, which means that we have to go racing for Heat Race 3. And it is a poor jump for the 12 to the inside. I think it was Akulski who did not get going, and Parker Kligerman a long way around. He'll go to the lead. No, it's Menenga who goes to the point in the 23.
Brilliant start, and have a look at this. 2 drivers alongside each other taking to the Joker. That's Hinchcliffe and Scott Speed. They'll head into second. Scott Speed, though, claims the advantage. Now, he has to be careful of not cutting those anti-cut strips. Otherwise, he'll have to slow down, and that will cost him an immense amount of time.
It also looked like Hinchcliffe might have got a little bit close off it on the way. The 6-time IndyCar Series race winner. Of course, Scott Speed out in front, and the battle therefore amongst the non-Joker takers is Hinchcliffe is slow, and the 3 caught the fence, I believe, as Travis McCoy gets a little bit slowed down. Hinchcliffe, a bit of a chicane through the chicane there, as now Menenga is going to dive out to the Joker. Does he match with Scott Speed? He'll race down side by side for the point, but Speed is clear.
Good stuff from Scott Speed. He should be through to the feature because he's got the strongest pace in this field. I don't think Meninga can catch him for the moment, but it's up to Parker Kligerman, who has a Joker up his sleeve. Same for Travis McCoy, you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. And with plenty of laps to go, strategy is open for these 2 drivers in 3rd and 4th.
And they can see Tyler Menenga running in second position. The professional monster truck driver is now McCoy's got a time penalty, so he has to slow. He'll take the Joker, but it is not going to be very beneficial to him. Here's the fight for second, though. Parker Kligerman on the inside of Menenga. He took the Joker as well, and he passed him up. So move Kligerman now into second. And after so good of a start for the 23, Tyler now on the outside looking in.
Now, Kligerman didn't make the feature in round 1, and he came into this round 6th in the point standings for the iRX All-Star Invitational, and he's looking good so far to claim that golden ticket to the feature race as we ride on board with Tyler Meninga. This jump is so thrilling. We had an awesome pile-up in the Sim Racing Championship here, Evan, last year for 2019. I remember we switched the camera shot to the jump, and I was wondering, aren't there supposed to be 9 cars coming across the jump? And we panned back, and they were all on their roofs.
Well, Tyler nearly did that on his own. The onboard shot showed to me as we're working lap number 4 of 6, and it is really the Scott Speed show. Despite starting at the very back of the grid, you're looking off of the back of Parker Kligerman's Ford as Menenga still wants to challenge him for this spot, and any sort of a blunder by the 77 would open the door. But, I mean, they're real tight on the barriers there, but watch here over the jump as well. That kind of K-rail on the left-hand side of the racetrack. So close, you can't really be squirrely over the jump, or you can be in some issues pretty quickly.
See, this is the difficulty for these real-life drivers jumping into the simulator, is that they muck up turning points like they wouldn't do in the real world, and it's all about seat time in the simulator. It's not that this is any less realistic. You know, Scott Speed says that Now, this does simulate rallycross quite well. A lot of other drivers who have driven the real thing love it too. But when it comes to sitting in a sim compared to the real thing, the way you feel the car, all those other sensors are definitely different. As we watch Meninga here muck up the end of the lap for a second time, he's actually clouted the wall there this time round.
And it is now going to be the final time around in this heat. Scott Speed's advantage over Kligerman, 1.5 seconds. It's about equidistance, therefore, back to Meninga. So he'll finish about midway through this one. And Scott Speed, of course, has won just about everything. Of course, has been very busy on the iRacing service. He just won an iRock race at Daytona this past Wednesday on FS1 over some NASCAR champions. But this is his element. The 3-time global rallycross champion is going to come off of the final quarter, up and over the GRC hill, and the checkered flag will fly. Scott Speed, winner of heat race number 3. So he punches his ticket through ahead of Parker Kligerman, who for the second week in a row will feature in the main event.
Yeah, and like we watched Tyler Meninga there in the background, just in shot, but great to see Meninga still pushing towards the finish. Never know what could happen. Travis McCoy ends up in 4th. James Hinchcliffe and Travis Okulski round out our 6-car field for Heat 3. We've missed some awesome crashes there in the background that I hope we get a shot of at the end of Heat 4, because these drivers are absolutely sending it as they head down the drag strip here. But like I said, Evan, Heat 4 will begin, and it will be a man named Oriol Servia. I think I've heard of that guy before.
Yeah, I think he's done a real-world race once or twice. He's going to be piloting that car on the inside, the American Red Cross entry for the Spaniard, of course, in support of today's charity, the American Red Cross, for this iRX California Classic. And how about some more familiar names? There he is, the 199 of Travis Pastrana, his Subaru, going to be on the inside of this 3-wide front row. That'll put the part-time NASCAR competitor Ryan Truex to the outside, starting in 3rd. So some IndyCar flavor back on the 2nd row. You'll find the number 20 USAF entry of Connor Daly, alongside the dirt racer, the 39 of Kevin Swindell, and the lone car at the very back is the 21 machine of Connor Bartel. And admittedly, Johnny may not be the worst to be way at the back there if that front row gets ugly once more.
Let's see how he goes for the start here. The lights are about to illuminate. Oriol Servia will lead the field from pole, as we discussed. He won the Indy Lights Championship in 1999, finished 2nd in kart back in 2005. That was his best finish in the championship. As we go green for the final heat of the day, and again, the pole sitter's gone nowhere off the line. It's Pastrana who will lead the field away.
He makes the middle work, and he is going to go right for the Joker. So Pastrana, Joker, nice. Lap 1. So does Daly, but he goes a little bit wide. So Connor Daly going to get passed by the 3rd Joker taker into Kevin Swindell. So Pastrana, Swindell, Daly, 1, 2, 3. They all took the Joker, but he's way off, and certainly a time penalty coming.
Potentially. So Pastrana here might actually back the pack up. This will be like what you see with a safety car out there in the field. And let's see how Pastrana clears this slowdown. It's going to be absolute chaos as they head back onto the tarmac. That's Connor Daly in 2nd. He was just overtaken by Martel. Martel to the outside of Pastrana, and now Martel leads.
Oh, it's Oriol Servia up and over. Another big piece of contact for Ryan Truex, as those cars could just not get away from each other. And it was a giant pack of 5 on top of one another. Only the car you see now, the 21 of Martel, wasn't a part of it.
Wow, that was a helicopter, wasn't it? Jesus
Looked like it.
Christ.
I don't know if it's X Games and the flat spin is a trick or not that we're going to award points to in this, but that was something.
Well, the thing I've established here is that I don't even know if I should trust my timing screen at the moment to the order, because I don't know who is where. I know Connor Martel's leading. I did see that. Kevin Swindell's in 2nd. Travis Pastrana's back in 3rd, but his pace is strong, so we believe he doesn't have a Joker up his sleeve. It is confirmed, but we do believe he has some good pace here to potentially climb in a 2nd past Swindell, because don't forget, these are 2 drivers that will head to the feature, and that's your top 2. So whoever finishes in those top 2 spots we'll head straight there as we ride on board with Pastrana through the carousel.
And if you're wondering how Martel got out in front, he took that Joker at the lap after where we saw all of that contact. So that's how he ended up in front. Swindell is second, and as you mentioned, Pastrana running in the number 3 spot right now. So just the 21 and the 39 would be advancing, and at least in the battle up at the front of the field, not expecting any of those late thrills because they all got the Joker out of their system real fast. It was looking good for Pastrana, took the Joker lap number 1, but again, got that off track, looked like some sort of a slow down time penalty, which basically is what iRacing does to make sure you don't cut the track, is depending on how egregious of an offense it is, you will be given X amount of seconds to slow down. It could be 5-6 seconds that you just have to slow down your pace to give up the time advantage, and of course he was in front of the pack, so you mentioned all of the chaos that left.
Well, we talked about that during the Supercars E-Series during the week, where you receive a certain amount of incident points and slow down penalties in iRacing, and you accumulate a certain amount, the service will self-police itself, and it will mean that you can receive certain time penalties in rallycross, drive-throughs in the road or oval racing service. And of course, you may have to slow down maybe 2-3 seconds, whatever the service gives you if you cut the track at certain points. Behind the scenes, Connor Daly's just made his way past Ryan Truex for 4th. So Connor Daly there, you can see on screen, heading through for his penultimate trip through the inner loop. But so far, this is looking like a pretty stagnant heat after that absolute bowling ball of a collision we had through the opening lap, or the opening couple of laps, and it looks like Martel and Swindell should be good to go for the feature.
They are well out in front. Swindell's advantage over Pastrana is actually he put down a lap time a second faster than Martel at the front. Is good enough pace to get him on through, and I think Connor Martel continues to kind of push the limit there on what is allowed and what is not track limits wise through that inner loop. But he'll get out of the dirty stuff and get back it onto the asphalt for the final time through what we'll call Calamity Quarter, the right-hander sneaking through the K-rails and the tires. And now for the final turn, Connor Martel going to do what Scott Speed did in the last one, and that is from the back to the front. Martel wins heat race number 4, and he punches his ticket on through to the feature race. He'll be joined by Kevin Swindell, who's going to tuck in line right behind Tim, and will join him on the grid. The 4-time Chili Bowl Nationals winner, going to be racing in the Rallycross main event.
That's awesome from Pastrana. I'm actually disappointed he clouted that, but way to go to send it after the race. Now, the good news is... Now, wait a second there. Can we look at the results for that heat? Because as far as I see... Now, what's happened there in that heat, Evan?
Yeah,
Because
Martel has some sort of a penalty.
So Connor Martel's received a post-race penalty that we've had no clue about. We cannot see that. Only Martel will see that from on board. And that means Connor Martel right now is not going to make it through to the feature, but you'll have good grip position for the LCQs. Bizarre stuff.
That was a good catch. Just taking a look, I do not believe that was a penalty that was issued either by race control. He may have had a pending slowdown penalty that he completed the race with, and therefore it would penalize his lap outright. So unfortunately for Martel, he's not in, and Pastrana jumps up to second. He's going to be in his first feature race of this 6-week championship. So we're going to get set now to go LCQ racing. We'll take a quick moment to step aside because, of course, we talk about all of these real-life racing personalities competing. Let's take a look at what happens when Alexander Rossi, Travis Pastrana, and Greg Duffy get the keys to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll resume here on the iRacing side in just a moment.
So you think we're going to be able to get in here?
No, there's not going to be anyone here. It's too cold.
So, how do you have a key?
Oh, I know a guy.
What do you mean you know a guy?
Don't worry about it. I know a guy.
Plenty of sunshine today, but it'll be a cold one with a high of only 26 degrees, so bundle up.
Let's have some fun today, boys. Coming in hot.
Woo! It's cold out here.
Rossi, what you got, man?
Me keeping up is not the problem.
Whoa! It's slick up here, man. Hey, I'm gonna go try out that golf course, try and find some traction.
You doing all right in this cold weather?
Man, I'm just out here grabbing gears.
See ya.
I'll catch you in a bit.
Like $10 says he shanks his hard left.
What's up, boys? Mind if I play through?
Whoa! Golf season.
Man, looks like a slow day on the link. Yep, that's a hazard. Woo! Quick 9, and I'm out. Hey, Trav.
This is gonna be awesome. Coming in hot. Game time. How cool is this? Oh, that was close. Sorry, guys, been driving circles again. Where y'all at?
I'm on the racetrack, man. Not that you'd be able to keep up anyway.
Look up, Rossi.
You almost took my head off.
Yeah, boy!
Punch it. Thanks, fellas. And just for the record, first in line.
Oh, I didn't know we were racing.
Thanks for having me, Trav. Maybe look into the weather next time.
And from a snowy Indianapolis Motor Speedway back to the virtual sunny California, where from the virtual Sonoma Raceway, the iRacing Sports Network coverage of the Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational presented by Yokohama is continuing as we are set to go LCQ Racing. Evan Pasoko, Jonathan Saban up top with you. Let's take a look at the order for LCQ number 1. Only the winner of this LCQ going to move on, and we have 9 cars going to fight for it. Chris Atkinson kicks it off. He'll be in what tonight has been a disadvantaged position to the inside of the very front row, joined by the 23 of Tyler Meninga in second position. Kevin Hansen going to be on the outside of that lane in third for the Swede. Back on row number 2, therefore, we now go 2 by 2. We'll see Travis Pacoy lined up with Craig Breen.
So good stuff from those guys to start in the top 5 spots, but it will be James Hinchcliffe for Andretti Rallycross starting from 6th, ahead of the Napa drag racing driver of Ron Capps to start from the 7th position, followed by Travis Okulski. And Justin Lofton, the trophy truck driver from Brawley, California. He's 34 years of age, and he's ready to go here to scream down for turn number 1.
And of course, we saw the penalty in Heat Race 4. We did confirm that it was an iRacing automatic slowdown for Martel for cutting the course that he did not yield to. That's why his finishing position was disallowed. Green lights on, though. We're racing at LCQ1, and there's already contact. Again, the top spot proves deadly, and it's Atkinson who goes first to last. Now we're fawning over the Joker lane as it's Meninga getting a nose out in front of Kevin Hansen.
Hansen trying to bully his way along with Meninga through to the Joker, but these two will lead the field away so far. There's a bit of huge collision between the two heading through the carousel, and that's going to turn both Hansen and Meninga around.
And you have to wonder if that is going to see a penalty come from the top. Menenga got way off track, and he almost pulled back on as Hansen got into him. So it takes the top two drivers who took the Joker out of this, and now up in front. Oh, it's Chris Atkinson way up and over in the 55. Absolutely destroyed after he made contact, got into the barrier, fighting with Menenga. So through all of that, Craig Breen, the quiet one so far tonight, is your race leader at lap 2. This Joker, like the Heats, 6 laps in distance.
Incredible right now, as we don't know who's going to head through because there's only one transfer slot to head to the feature race right now. And it could mean potentially a front row start, which has been a disadvantage so far as we watch Breen lead the field away. Now, he was involved in a massive incident at Daytona. He'll take to the Joker and forget about that for this round. Oh, no, excuse me. That's James Hinchcliffe taking to the Joker. But Hinchcliffe is on a pursuit now for Craig Breen. I don't know if he can do it, Evan. It's going to be awfully tight come the finish.
Yeah, Hinchcliffe has got a lot of time to make up. The Joker did allow him to leapfrog Travis Picoy, who he's fighting with right now. And Picoy going to go around, a spin from behind. As Picoy goes off track, you were on board with Hinch, looking up to the race leader. Picoy tried to get to his inside and spun behind him. So Hinchcliffe tried to chase down the Irishman, Craig Breen, the World Rally Championship driver, who has already completed that Joker. That is a hefty interval, though, to catch.
Yeah, so that was off camera for a bit, and they may have made contact. Obviously, I'm not going to speculate. It was tough to see, but right now, Hinch won't be worrying about that. Hinch is up onto... He's almost flipped that Andretti Rallycross car. That's going to allow Travis Picoy through to second. Unfortunately for these two, they've still got Craig Breen to catch and the Subaru up ahead.
I think that right-hander where you see Breen just now get out of that tight kind of right-left to get onto the backstretch of the road course here is the Calamity Corner, but certainly the most challenging turn on this circuit is that up through the inner loop in the dirt. It's just one big long corner, and the drivers seem to be over-rotating, get it into the grass. You can see the cones marking where you cannot go off track or you will get that slowdown penalty. Some drivers actually under-rotating and pushing up to the very outside. By far and large, the most difficult quarter on the racetrack.
Yeah, I agree. But Craig Breen, the Irishman, seems to be handling it quite well, so he'll disagree with you, Evan, but I agree with you. I'll make you feel good about yourself. This track is certainly difficult to drive. I don't know how Breen he's driving so splendidly right now. This is awesome from the Irishman who made the feature last week, and I think he'll be untouched. I think he'll head through to the feature, but who knows in Rallycross? It's always a dramatic story. Anything can go wrong here in the final couple of laps.
We thought our Heat Race 4 winner Martel was through until he did not serve a penalty. So the big thing here for Breen is to be clean. And again, this LCQ running order was not inverted at all. It was the finishing positions for the drivers that did not transfer out of the heats. And a race win at LCQ1 means that Craig Breen going to be set for a front row start in the feature because Breen has done it better than the 8 cars. And he moves on the win at LCQ number 1, and he will make his second straight feature.
Good stuff from Breen. Like I said, he's mastered a difficult circuit here at Sonoma, which is so easy to overtake at. He's survived the start. He'll head through to the feature, but we say goodbye to Travis Picoy, goodbye to James Hinchcliffe. Goodness me, the tire stack there. Well, it just resets just like that. So there you go. But Tyler Menenga will end up in 4th at the end of the heat. Kevin Hansen, unfortunately, end of the day for him. Kevin Hansen had some promising pace ahead of Travis Sikulski, drag racer Ron Capps, and a DNF for Australian Chris Atkinson from Bega, New South Wales. It's a famous place where they make a great tasting cheese. Justin Lofton will round out the finishing order. Now we head through to the second consolation race, and that will be Alexander Rossi starting from pole.
It is the Indy 500 champ, joined alongside by fellow NTT IndyCar Series competitor in Connor Daly in second position. And you'll find Brandon Semenuk, who just signed a deal with Subaru Motorsports USA earlier this year in his virtual Subaru on the inside, or actually the outside, of a 3-wide front row. Row number 2 is going to see Connor Bartel start from 4th position. He'll be joined by Chad Reed. And then 3 wide on the row behind, Ryan Truex, Garrett Smithley, some NASCAR flavor, 6th and 7th on the grid. Of course, Oriol Servia, who's driven just about every race car that I can think of, is in position 8, and Greg Duffy in the star car this week with Nitro Circus is at the very back in position number 9. So qualifying order and starting to position, Johnny, has not meant a whole lot tonight, so I can't really tell you where to look for. Certainly Connor Bartel's got to be the favorite here, having won Heat Race 4, but getting that penalty. But he has to stay clean and get out of the hornet's nest that he finds himself smack dab in the middle of.
It's the survival of the fittest heading into the first corner here for Brandon Semenuk. He lives near the Whistler Sliding Center that was used in the Winter Olympics. And for him, it's going to feel the same. It's going to feel like the Winter Olympics here heading into the first corner. We go green for the final LCQ of the day. Semenuk throws it into the first corner. They all survive for the first time. Quite spectacular to see a few drivers taking to the Joker.
And it was a good start for Bartel. Exactly what he wanted. You'll see him in the foreground. Boom. New race leader. Bartel got that out of the way early. Servia also took to the Joker, but missed it a little bit on the right-hand turn in, so he's back in traffic, currently getting past for the 180 car. That's Brandon Semenuk up in the bottom lane. Ryan Truex also on through. So Alexander Rossi in second leads the group of cars who have yet to take the Joker. If he could keep Bartel within 2 seconds of him, then that Joker undercut could really benefit the driver of the 27, and he's going to go for it right away. The completion of lap number 1. Rossi to the inside. Can he keep up with Bartel by a few feet? He's got him. Rossi to the point, but for how long can he hold off the 21?
Now that's a smart strategy, because for Rossi, he might not be able to hold Martel on pace. But if you can dominate track position on him, and he can act as a roadblock here for the rest of the heat, that might cause troubles for Martel. Because remember, only one of these drivers will head through to the feature race, and that's Martel clouding the barrier. And has he got terminal suspension damage? We will wait and see.
It was a big mistake, though, for the driver of the 21. You can see in the left-hand side now your Joker update. Still waiting on Brandon Semenuk to take his Joker, along with Connor Daly, Garrett Smithley, Oriol Servia, and Chad Reed down through traffic. You can see Servia, the best of the rest right now, in third. Still has that Joker for the undercut, but he's 4.1 seconds off of the race lead. And as Johnny, you mentioned earlier, that delta is about 2 seconds. Yes, that will help, but I think he's hoping that Martel isn't totally damaged, can get up with Rossi, and if those two exchange blows and fight, he could kind of sneak in third. Keep that in the back of your head if this battle up front continues to get excited, because Martel's damage doesn't seem to be terminal. The interval between the two the last time by was 1.6 seconds in favor of Rossi. That time by, it drops down to 1 second flat, so Martel is faster with 3 laps to go.
Yeah, good call, Evan. So we're going to look out for this, because this is our final transfer spot, as we've been stressing. And Rossi's made a mockery here of the carousel, and Martel is ready to steam past with 3 to go. As we ride on board with Martel through the final couple of corners. Here we go through to the absolute final corner on the circuit. Here's the jump around Sonoma. What a thrilling sight that is, as they land and begin yet another lap here. Now, Rossi did not make the feature last round. He made the feature for round number 1. Martel in round 1 was on the podium for that feature race final. Here we go with 2 to go. We're going to say goodbye to one of these two.
And Rossi still leads. So far, this 0.93 miles, 6-turn fantasy. iRX at the virtual Sonoma Raceway has been great racing tonight, and we may be in store. Best finish so far. Rossi, 2 car lengths ahead of Martel, who's harder onto the brakes now as the Subaru is looking to the outside. This battle coming down to the white flag.
Martel trying to go for the switchback, but there's no room as Rossi parks it on the apex. May that have been Connor Martel's final chance to head to the feature.
They've got a lot of tight quarters now as they get off of the dirt. Martel back to within 3 car lengths as they get on the K-rails. And he driving it hard enough. The race controls watching if he tries to go to move the 27. Now final turn at LCQ2 to the bumper, but he's not going to be able to do it. Rossi over the jump, hangs on, and Alexander Rossi wins LCQ number 2, and that will give pole position in the feature race to the driver of that number 27 machine. Rossi, the Andretti Autosport driver and 7-time IndyCar Series race winner, is going to be sitting on pole for the main event in this American Red Cross iRX California Classic.
Yeah, we saw one driver sending it there after the race. What a finish that was. That was quite an exciting consolation race. That was the final one for the day. So Rossi will make it through by a 10th.5 ahead of Connor Martel. And that's the first feature race that Connor Martel will miss this season in the iRX All-Star Invitational here on iRacing. Ryan Truex will start from 3rd ahead of will finish 3rd ahead of Brandon Semenak. Connor Daly at the end of the day, say goodbye to him too. He did drive quite well though today, Connor Daly. And unfortunately for him, that's his day done along with the rest behind.
It is a big loss, not only for those drivers who don't make the main, but Connor Martel was 4th in the points. Of course, fighting for a top 3 spot to get a couple of $1,000 to charity. So Martel's going to have some making up to do when we head to Lucas Oil Raceway next Friday. But as we get set for this feature race, we'll take another opportunity to step aside. And when we come back to Wine Country, we're going feature racing. You're watching the iRacing Esports Network coverage of today's American Red Cross iRX California Classic. The main event is next.
As we work to get through these times together, you may not be thinking about blood donation, but blood is needed to save the lives of people who are sick with a range of illnesses. It's easy and safe to give. If you are in good health, please donate. We need heroes now. Visit redcrossblood.org to schedule an appointment.
And back live from the virtual Sonoma Raceway as we get set to go green for the main event as the Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational presented by Yokohama continues tonight with round number 3. And Evan Pazoka, Jonathan Simon up top of the broadcast booth with you. Big thanks, David Danboys downstairs for bringing us to you. And Johnny, we'll talk and we'll recap what's happened tonight. We'll also talk this feature race, which is due up next, but would be remiss not to talk a little bit about the American Red Cross. All the races this season, not only is the championship all funding to get money donated to the drivers' charities of choice to the top 3, but each round of this iRX All-Star Invitational doing the same thing in support of charities. And this week it is the American Red Cross, who kind of now more than ever needs some support. Of course, for those here in the United States, you can go to redcrossblood.org specifically if you're healthy and donate blood. That is an urgent need. But as as well, kind of in these current times in coordination with the FDA. The Red Cross is also seeking to people, if you have fully recovered from the new coronavirus, to sign up and donate plasma. That will help current patients who have fully recovered, may have antibodies in their plasma, and that can help those with serious or immediate life-threatening infections. So there's so many different ways that the Red Cross is trying to help make a difference, and there's so many ways that you at home, if you're healthy and willing and able, strongly encourage you to support them in their mission to save lives.
Yeah, and American Red Cross does support communities across the country of the United States of America, and those communities count on the American Red Cross for help every day. So support those communities where you can, and support American Red Cross. You can visit redcrossblood.org for more information, as Evan discussed before. But for now, though, great to have them supporting our iRX All-Star Invitational at Sonoma. And great to have a feature race coming up, which I cannot wait for. I really love this edition, Evan, of being able to take the Joker on the first lap here. And for those who may be coming from the European side of Rallycross, the Jokers in the American Rallycross and even Red Bull GRC back in the day were designed to be a shortcut, whereas what you see in the European world is a longer distance around the racetrack. So that might be something you are new to as well. And it just means that the Joker strategy isn't entirely different, Evan, but it just means you might need to approach it slightly different to what you would in the European world, of course.
And of course, you can see our social handles down on the bottom. We encourage you to be a part of the conversation. If you're enjoying what you're watching, you can use the hashtag iRX and be a part of all the fun with us as we get set for the main event in today's American Red Cross iRX California Classic. Let's take a look, though, at your starting grid. And again, it is reverse order. So the newest transferees at the top, the most successful from earlier on in the afternoon at the bottom. And it'll be headlined by the 27 of Alexander Rossi. Winner of LCQ number 2, he will bring us to the green flag in this one. The driver out of Nevada City, California. He'll be joined by Craig Breen in the middle for this one. The Irish Rally driver will start in the number 2 spot, currently sitting in the pits. As you can see, these drivers taking advantage of a late warm-up session. And the driver who you could pretty much just say, Johnny, is the jack of all trades, but if you want to get technical, you can list off the 11-time X Games gold medals, the Supercross and Motocross championships, and the list goes on and on. Pastrana is going to be starting third.
Yeah, the 36-year-old from Maryland, and he's been so quick on iRacing, and I think quicker from here for Pastrana in that 199 machine. He's representing Nitro Rallycross, Subaru Motorsports USA, and the America's Rallycross Association. So many more, too. He's been involved in so many areas of the racing world, but he'll be ahead of Parker Kligerman, who will round the second row from the 4th position. Remember, Kligerman, Evan, had a podium here in the feature race last week.
He finished third and had a ton of fun with that one, and will be alongside the number 2 of Cabot Bigham for this one. Bigham, one of the best drivers we've seen so far at Mill Valley, California. The 22-year-old American starts at 5th. And then we look back and we get that sim racing flavor on row 3, looking at the number 1 Williams Esports entry of Sammy Matty Trogan, 2019 iRacing Rallycross champion. He'll start from P6 and will be joined up by the Dirt Racer, the 39 car of Kevin Swindell. Will start from 7th. He's one of the only drivers not currently on track in this warm-up session.
And have a look how quick everybody else is behind. That's Scott Speed starting from 8th, ahead of Mitchell DeYoung and Christian Brooks, who will begin this feature race from the last position. That might not be the worst position to begin with, as all the contact we've had through our opening couple of races has proved that pole position could be a detriment here for Alexander Rossi. We had a clean start for our last consolation race, Evan, but let's see how we go here for the final race of the day. I'm telling you, I've got a virtual tear because I love this circuit. And who knows, Evan, I might not see it for another few months' time till we head to the Sim Racing World Championship. I really hope we get more of these All-Star Invitationals throughout the year.
It's been a lot of fun, and I'll tell you Time we wrap up things here tonight, I might have to hook the wheel up and do a couple of laps. Not that
yes,
anybody
sir.
needs to see that, so I'll do it on my own, but kind of go out there and have some fun and see if I can get within like 5 or 6 seconds of what these drivers are doing. Also, a late note on the grid, we talked about Christian Brooks. He has had an issue where he lost power and is not going to be able to compete. Of course, the driver way earlier on this evening won heat race number 1 and would have started at the back of the grid. No power, cannot sim race, and unfortunately, his night could end, and he'll probably get last placed points for this feature.
He needs some willpower as he... Do you like that one, Evan? As he comes... he will not take
But a 6 out of 10. I'll give it a 6.
What, by the way, what is the bad luck there? Having your power lost 10 minutes before it should have gone. I mean, I would be kicking myself over that. And let me tell you, these racing drivers, I don't care if this is virtual. A lot of them getting as nervous as usual. Scott Speed talked about the nerves in qualifying last week. And some of these drivers are competitive as ever. We've seen arguments over the service too, over incidents. You don't make it to the top level of motor racing without a certain level of competitiveness. Let's see how Cabot Bigham goes, though, from the middle of the field.
He's going to be right in the middle of it all, but again, that 3-wide front row, we'll see Alexander Rossi far left of your screen. That'll make it far right from driver's perspective down into the tight turn 1 with Breen and Pastrana on the front row. Of course, it is a very tight opening quarter. It's essentially a chicane almost with jersey barriers on either side, and that'll be the exciting one. But certainly in the case of Brooks is, I guess it could be attributed to what would be a total electrical failure on the car in real world. There are some uniquely sim racing challenges with equipment issues with your wheel or your computer monitors, and kind of above all that is none of it'll work if you don't have power. So certainly unfortunate that Christian's not going to be able to compete in the main event this evening after having a very good showing. We talked about Connor Martell missing the main event, Johnny. Well, he was 4th in the points. Brooks 3rd in the championship headed into this evening. So we could see a shake up near the top as we get set to go. Lights to red, and they are green. Racing in the feature from Sonoma. There's already contact. It's Breen and Rossi 4 wide behind. Somehow they're good. Trogan sideways, and Pastrana's in the fence.
So many drivers colliding right there. Pastrana's actually made it through to the jump. There's the Williams Esports driver of Sammy Matty Trogan into the wall after the jump. But leading this field away so far is Craig Breen from Mitchell de Jong, who started from 9th.
The field was basically split in half there with the Joker takers and those who did not, and it was Breen, who I thought was going to be the one who went around, who's out in front of the field right now. You see right there is Mitchell de Jong, who had to go from a 9th on the grid. He rockets to 2nd in the blink of an eye. All that courtesy of being behind most of the chaos. It was actually the first driver to come out of that Joker looking unscathed. More Jokers now. Rossi, Pastrana, they go through the Joker lane. Looks like Parker Klickerman is off track. His feature may be done, but Mitchell de Jong from 2nd position already closing in on the 42 of Breen. You can see the Joker laps remaining. Both the race leaders have gotten it out of the way.
I thought Pastrana was going to be turned around there. Sammy Matty Trogan's got a slow down penalty, and he's had to give up a couple of positions clearing that penalty. Now remember, all these drivers are running fixed frozen setups, so there's no competitive advantage apart from the car you might be driving, whether that's the Subaru, our series sponsor, or the V-Dub, or even the Ford Fiesta. Here's the battle for the lead, though, as de Jong searches for P1 after starting from the back.
And he's looking on the inside, but he has to be careful not to go too far off now as the race leader got off it into the grass. Could that be borderline for Craig Breen? De Jong now crossing inside to out, trying to find a way through, but doing everything it can to avoid contact. Not into him yet. Craig Breen making it shown that he is not going to move over and let Mitchell de Jong get the hat trick without a fight.
De Jong's basically, I'm telling you, I've seen de Jong drive for at least 5 years now on sim racing. He's absolutely coasting it, waiting to make a move on Breen. Look for him go to the outside here. He's going to try it. There's no point going for the switchback, Mitchell, because Breen is too slow on the apex, but I think The only reason he's not going for the outside, Evan, is because the camber around there is going to be so difficult to drive. But have a look at him try it here.
And you can see on those shots through the carousel just how much larger that Subaru is than the Beetle behind him, as DeYoung again still methodically trying to set the 42 of Breed up and out. As he do it in the final corner, looking to the bottom. Oh, and there's contact. DeYoung turns Breed from the race lead. That at the completion of lap number 4. Do we see the 24 penalized?
Oh, that's going to be a tough one to call.
Rossi, that's behind. Different penalty. Rossi got 5. Does DeYoung get 1?
Yeah, exactly. So Alexander Rossi's had a penalty for a separate incident, as we just discussed. So it's up to the stewards now to review the accident. I haven't seen it a second time, but when I saw it live, Evan, I just felt like DeYoung kept his car straight under braking. And unless the stewards felt like he wasn't a certain amount ahead of Craig Breen's rear axle, then they will deem him at fault for that. But in my opinion, I think DeYoung kept it clean and Breen just had to turn in to defend his position. But it's a tough one to call. If I was a stewards, I would leave that one for sure.
Well, of course, we've seen the court administrative team who has overseen all of this have to review several incidents and obviously taking their time can confirm that the stewards are reviewing this one. But my thinking, Johnny, is if Mitchell DeYoung wanted to put him out of the way, he could have done it 3 laps ago. I mean, he was really waiting, trying to set him up, and of course, Breen had been kind of intentionally slowing the 24 down and taking the line away, so I don't think I'd have an issue either way if that one was let go. But if it is, Mitchell DeYoung is cruising now. Well, no, he will not walk away with a 3rd consecutive Yokohama pole position award. He's already got 2 of those Bear Walker custom skateboards, one of them already on site at his home and where his sim racing rig is today, and the second one, I'm sure, from last week in Daytona, going to be on route soon. That went earlier this evening to your pole sitter and Sammy Matty Trogan, who of course is kind of struggled and has had a whirlwind of an afternoon, and Trogan now actually moving into the 2nd position through all of that around Breen.
He's actually had a good event in this feature, Sammy Matty Trogan, as he scrapes the wall there heading into the final corner. He's really pushing it here, and this is deja vu as we saw these two scrap it out for the World Championship in sim racing in 2019. It was Sammy Matty Trogan who took the title in his rookie season. DeYoung missed 2 rounds of that campaign, and that helped Sammy Matty Trogan to the championship. But Sammy Matty was the most impressive rookie I've ever seen in motor racing and sim racing in quite some time. He was a champion for a reason.
And with this longer feature race, we had been seeing 6-lap races all afternoon long. Trogan and DeYoung would be long done by now, but it'll be the Popsicle 6 of the year 2 more times by for Mitchell DeYoung, who's still without a penalty. Now, assuming, Johnny, that the stewards are going to have that boys have at it attitude and feel like it was not a malicious bit of contact. And of course, DeYoung, therefore, looks like he'll be able to maintain that without any sort of time penalty. He does have 3 seconds over Trogan, though, so as you see, even if he got a 2-second penalty, still might win this thing outright.
Well, possibly. I think DeYoung should be okay, though. Trogan, I believe, off camera, I was looking at a separate onboard shot, and he did clout the anti-cut strip, so I'm wondering if he's cleared that slowdown. He should be okay. But I think this race is over here as we begin the final lap. It's going to be Mitchell DeYoung with 3 race wins in this iRX All-Star Invitational. And Evan, we tried to throw him into the last position to hamper him. It didn't work at all. He's back into the 1st position.
Yeah, not only did he have to start at the back of heat race number 2, started 7th and won that one, but he started 9th in the feature. Different beginning, same result. Final quarter for Mitchell DeYoung, who is going to complete the hat trick 3 in a row in the Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational. He wins from Sonoma and the victor of the American Red Cross iRX California Classic is the 24 of Mitchell DeYoung.
Nice stuff from the young American. And he is unstoppable on the iRacing service. For Trogan, he comes home in 2nd. Rounding out the podium, though, is Craig Breen. The gap between him and Cabot Bigham across the line, Evan, was 0.3 of a second. And that was a phenomenal finish between the two. Bigham ends up in 4th at the end of the day. For Scott Speed, not the best event, will end up in 5th. We know Scott is capable of podiums and wins, and hopefully he'll claim his first in at least a few more rounds' time. At the end of the day, Swindell ended up in 7th. But here are the final results on screen. Look at the gap, Evan, between Breen and Bigham.
It was certainly close, and the big things that I take away that I mentioned at the start of this feature: no Christian Brooks in this main event due to the loss of power. He'll get 10th placed points. No Connor Martell at all. Brooks and Martell came into this 3rd and 4th in the points. So it's going to be ups to Mitchell DeYoung, who wins. He'll gain his points lead. Scott Speed, who gets a good result in 5th. Not as good as he would have liked, but he'll also gain in 2nd. And it could give us an interesting battle because with no Andreas Backerud either, Parker Kligerman, who was 6th in the points, had a big opportunity in this feature, Johnny, to get a lot of points, maybe to rocket up to 3rd, but a P9 just may not cut it.
Yeah, it won't. And for Brooks, normally you won't receive points if you don't complete a lap of the feature, but I'm pretty sure that the race controller here will be quite lenient with the power outage, and that's normally what the case is for the Sim Racing World Championship, but this is the All-Star Invitational, and let's have a bit of fun here and reward Christian Brooks, I think, for making a feature. So let's see if how race control decides that, but Evan, for him, we talked about the technical issue, not the best way to end your day. Hopefully we see Cabot Bigham, of course, too, Evan, on the podium soon in a few rounds' time because he's getting better week to week in the sim.
He is, and I think that's the biggest thing is you look at the drivers, aside from DeYoung and Trogan, Craig Breen on back all the way through Christian Brooks are relatively inexperienced iRacers in this current format, lower licenses in the official racing. So really good to see them continue to improve through the weeks. We'll take another quick opportunity one more time to step aside, and when we return, we'll talk with your top finishers, but it's the Mitchell DeYoung Show once more, a winner in the Subaru iRX All-Star Invitational presented by Yokohama. And back live from the virtual Sonoma Raceway, where tonight we really thought outside of the oval with round number 3 of the Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational presented by Yokohama. It is once more Mitchell DeYoung, a race winner. He is now a perfect 3 for 3 as he captured the win in this afternoon's American Red Cross iRX California Classic. Welcome back, though, into the iRacing Sports Network booth. Evan Pasoko, Jonathan Savada upstairs with you as we have a little bit of post-race coverage. Johnny, now halfway through this championship.
Yeah, certainly. It's going to be Craig Breen up first for post-race interviews, and we were going to speak to him in a moment's time. We're just trying to sort out a couple of issues behind the scenes, but for Breen, he started that final feature in 2nd, ended up in 3rd at the end of the day, and for the Irishman, after a disappointing Daytona heat, he will unfortunately Unfortunately, we're just hearing where we won't speak to him. So apologies for the technical issue here behind the scenes. There's a lot of chaos. But Sammy Matty Trogan, have we got you? We'll speak to you for the second. We'll speak to you first. You finished in the second position. We got you, mate?
Yep.
Great race for you at the end of the day. After starting from 6th, the inverted grids don't seem to help. But hey, at the end of the day, man, it's all in a big good of fun. And finally, it's your first podium in the iRX All-Star Invitational.
Yeah, it's been really hectic first 2 races, and now I finally got a decent race, and yeah, it was a lot of fun with this inverter thing. I think it was more entertaining and everything. So yeah, it was great race.
I asked Mitchell last week, but how do you like this rule where you can take the Joker on the first lap? I think it's something we need to add to the Sim Racing Championship too in a few months' time.
Yeah, I think it's also where to put in the World Championship Series. It helps a lot with the T1 turn 1 things. So yeah, I think it's worth to put also there.
And you've been driving quite well in the All-Star Invitational here at Sonoma. For you, remember, you're still a world champion. I've been reminding viewers of that, don't forget. So will you be repeating on that hopefully for 2020? Are you looking good for the championship? We know you've got your teammates now with Josh Fox at the Williams Esports team, and it's good for Josh as well to have a teammate by his side. He could show some improvement as you two work together.
Yeah, of course, we before the 1 month before the season start, we will start work hard, and then let's see. But I think it's going to be great season again. So let's see.
And about your real world, can you talk about your relationship with Set Promotion? Because you raced with them last year, but what were your plans for 2020 before the COVID-19 crisis took place and ended our racing so far for the beginning of the year?
I mean, yeah, it's actually I don't know yet all the things because this Corona thing. So let's see. But I did some rallies this winter, and let's see what happens after we know when we will race. So let's see.
Yeah, lovely. All right, we'll leave you to it, Sammy Matty. Hopefully see you next round at Lucas Oil, which was a real-world layout used, Evan, in Red Bull GRC back in the day. Can't wait to get it going on the iRacing service.
Yeah, it's fun kind of bouncing not only across the world and across the country, but across the real scans of tracks and, of course, the fantasy ones like it is. Sonoma. Let's get on the radio now, though, with the driver of the number 24 machine for a 3rd week in a row. It is Mitchell DeYoung, feature race winner in this Subaru iRX All-Star Invitational. Mitchell, they tried to keep you down from the back of the front, not only in the heat race, but in that feature as well with the inverted grid, and even through all of that, 24 strong. Talk us through your night.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting one. We knew the format was going to be very different with this whole inversion thing. Have to say, I really enjoyed it. It was very hectic. In the heat race, I was like, oh, I probably not going to make the transfer spot, and we ended up winning at the last corner. At the end, we just got really lucky with the wreck on the first lap, and kind of getting through that. And we had a really good close battle with Craig. Unfortunately, it kind of ended that way. Had a bit of I would say a lag contact, and I hate that it ended our battle that well, because Craig was driving great. Craig was driving really well. I was trying to throw moves to kind of intimidate him, on corner entries, and he just held strong. So it's cool to see him still get 3rd in the end. And Sammy also had a great drive to the field. So very happy to be back on top after the inversion. Very fun night for sure.
We were looking forward to watching that battle continue on, and of course, we even talked tonight. We do the 24 head speed, but was never kind of way out in front in the speed charts, practice qualified, what have you, like we did in weeks past. We've been reminding folks tonight that this is not a real track in Rallycross, one of the fantasy ones on the iRacing service out here in Sonoma, and kind of drives very different about being way of this. It seemed like we saw a lot more of that tonight. Was that the track? I mean, how do you think this one raced, or was that more so the inverted grid that was leading to all the chaos?
I would say this track typically adds a bit more to the feistiness of the chaos or of the racing. We do have some pretty big I guess brawls out here in World Championship in the rounds, and this is a very unknown track for a lot of people. Like being right on line in the dirt section is very critical. You can easily lose a second if you're not directly on the line. So you have some big closing speeds and different things like that. I think other tracks will be a little bit better. The format I think may have a little bit of an effect on that, but I think everyone will like slowly adapt to it, get used to it. I think it's definitely a fun thing, and I'll keep moving forward.
We head out to Lucas Oil Raceway next week as you'll fight for another one of those custom boards as you try to get another Yokohama pole, but as well you'll fight for a 4th straight feature race win. What's your outlook to round 4?
Lucas Oil, that one's definitely not up there for me in terms of liking tracks. I hate to say it. It is a very difficult one. I'll do my best though. Sonoma is also one of those difficult tracks for me, and we gave it our best. So we'll do the same kind of strategy and see what we can pull off. So hope to make it another win.
It's been exciting so far, Mitchell. Is of course you've not only to come out here and have some fun with all these guys, but as well to help charity at the end of the night, as the champion's going to get $5,000 of that $10,000 purse to a charity of your choice. Thanks for participating in all of this as well. We appreciate you chatting. Congratulations, and we'll see if you can do it again next week.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Race winner tonight in the feature from Sonoma, it is DeYoung in the American Red Cross iRX California Classic. We'll look forward to what's going to be up with Lucas Oil next week, but just wanted to mention one more time a big shout out to our charity partner tonight, the American Red Cross. If it is a plasma donation, if it is a blood donation, anything you can do if you're well able to go to redcrossblood.org and be a part of that and help make a difference and help them in their quest to save lives in our communities. But Jonathan, as we mentioned, through 3 rounds now, from overseas at iRX to the Tona International Speedway short course now through tonight at Sonoma, we're halfway through what has been a super fun and entertaining event. We hope that everybody tuning in is enjoying it as much as we are, and Lucas Oil on deck for next Friday, May the 1st.
And it was a track used in the real world, as we discussed earlier, for Red Bull GRC. The last time used back in 2017. It was a thrilling event for 2017 too. Can't wait to see our real drivers take to the racetrack at the same track they raced at many years ago. Scott Speed will like that for sure, as he's quite familiar around the circuit. Mitchell DeYoung also raced there too, Evan, which doesn't help us because we know he may dominate yet again heading into round number 3.
Yeah, if he's able to find his success tonight at a racetrack that he was a little bit iffy about, maybe not just on his resume, certainly going to be in a prime position to try to go for the 4-peat next week. But until next time, that does it for us here tonight from the virtual version of Sonoma Raceway out in one country in the Golden State of California. I want to thank everybody behind the scenes for making this event possible, for Chris Leone and the team at iRace, and of course, Court and the administrative team for administering this and keeping an eye and getting all the drivers in line, and of course for your broadcast team tonight. For David and boys downstairs, for Jonathan Savant, my name is Evan Pasoko. I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Mitchell DeYoung, who is now a nice 3 for 3 on the campaign so far. We'll catch you next Friday. It'll be May the 1st from the virtual Lucas Oil Raceway. That race and every race of the Subaru iRacing Rallycross All-Star Invitational presented by Yokohama. It'll be found right here on the iRacing Esports Network. We'll catch you next time.